Hasan, welcome, and stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Before I speak about, what is the topic today, actually, Ms. Danika has highlighted a very important point from where I can see the whole psychological safety, and that is the values. If the company really believes in the values and they have their own authentic value, whether they kind of Google it, that's perfectly all right, but they need to customize it, then they can have easily the psychological safety framework. We'll talk about a little bit more. However, people always say, like in organizational setup, these all psychological safety, it's a very softy. It's not something which we need to have. We have to have a business results. But if I may say, based on the research after post-COVID, business results and psychological safety is one or the same thing. And we're just going to see that. What does it mean? If any organization is performing well, you could see certain elements in the organization, and you could also relate with the psychological safety. So let me just kind of start it. But before I speak about psychological safety, I just need to highlight three concepts which we have been coined during last 3 days. So one is kind of a leadership, if it's working well. Yep. So leadership. I chose Dr. Marshall Goldsmith, who's a living legend, and he always talk about the leadership. And his point is very simple. Leadership is not about you, but basically to delegate, empower your people, and make them kind of, more responsible and then accountable. And that's all about leadership. There are various schools of thought, there are various thinking patterns, but this is something which is Marshall Goldsmith, who's the #1 guru in the leadership during this time period. The second concept is emotional intelligence. We spoke a lot. So let me also share the guru of emotional intelligence during our time, which is Dr. Daniel Goleman. He's another also American psychologist who talks about yourself, knowing about you, and knowing about others. So he talked about self-awareness, which Ms. Danika has also spoken about. Then your self-management, how you're going to react, how you're going to act, are you proactive, are you reactive? And then knowing the organizational culture, knowing the style. If you're working in a kind of a corporate setup, how you gonna kind of perform vis-a-vis if you're working in a private or public sector or in a family business or in a consultancy. So this would help you to be adaptable. So we have to be careful what reaction and action we are doing it. And the last, strategy. Strategy is nothing. It's culture eats strategy for breakfast. So basically your culture determines everything. Your culture is the one which tells people who you are, what do you do, and where do you want to go. And all strategy undercomes your culture. It's a little bit controversial, but I don't want to spend time here. We can talk when someone asks question. I don't think so. This is said by Peter F. Drucker. However, it's known like this is Peter Drucker's thing. So I don't know who said it. Okay. Shall we move or any question? Okay. So psychological safety. What is psychological safety? So it's basically the framework which company provides you to work effectively in order to support the company to grow further. So that's amazing. Once you have that psychological space, psychological safety, you have fun, you have motivation, you have willing to do things. You are kind of, full in control. You don't need to be controlled by others. See this boy, how happy he is, and even wearing nice dress as well. Okay. So let's see what HBR says about psychological safety. Psychological safety is nothing than the shared belief. We are vulnerable, we are humans, we can take risks, we have to say what we feel, and we have a courage to ask questions. If we have that courage to ask questions, then we have a kind of a leadership value or leadership trait. But I think the most important is we need to take risks. If we don't, we become very stale, stagnant, and the whole organization is not growing. And unfortunately, after COVID, we have seen many organizations They're very, very limited and mindful in order to take calculative risks. So because of their insecurities, because of merger, because of so many other elements, people are not ready to take risk. And they become deadwood or dinosaur or whatever you call it. So if we look at all these elements, it all helps us to grow as an individual, as a company. And that's what psychological safety is. Okay, why do we need psychological safety? Which I've already discussed that. If we have psychological safety, it means we have more motivated, engaged team. Definitely, we're going to have more high-performing teams. And the most important is we are having innovation and creativity. So in order to have innovation of creativity, it helps us to have a kind of different ways of doing things. It can help you even cost effectiveness. It can help you even new systems. It can help you to even reach to new customers. So there are so many things if you have this within your organization. And it would help you to have organization which is more sustainable. And eventually, as Ms. Danika said as well, once you're going to have the wellness program, the mental, the physical, it can help in terms of employee retention, engagement, enablement, and the whole family is involved. So it helps to have a work-life balance as well. I know certain organizations where when they hire people, they need to really help them to be more physically and intellectually fit. So the people, those who kind of, be part of that culture, they grow. Otherwise, unfortunately, the other, they have to go because they are not able to be part of the culture. Is it right or wrong? I'm not saying this, but this is the way that organization has grown up to the level where they're going to have 10, 15 offices in across the globe, across the region, which is the GCC. Okay. Key components and building blocks for psychological safety. From last 3 days, we've been discussing. All of my worthy panelists, speakers, friends, they've been talking about this. Open communication, we all know. I think the second is another important is a mutual trust. Mutual trust mean it's not that I win, you lose. No, we both need to win. We are together. We are in this boat. So we sail together or the otherwise. Inclusion and respect. So that's another point. We talk about Gen Z, millennial, these all are terminology. If we have that mutual relationship, if we are part of our value system, if we are part of one culture, everything comes along. Age doesn't matter. Even I can work with a 16 years old young boy or girl. That's not an issue. Constructive feedback. Yeah, that's an issue where we have seen we sometimes massage our feedback or sometimes we are too abrasive. So end of the day, we see feedback is nothing but kind of either criticism or hush, hush, hush. Basically, we need to share what is the actual meat in between. Whether you use a sandwich approach or whatever approach you use it, you need to share the actual meat. And the last, which is to me is very important, which is the compassion. Accountability with compassion. You need to understand people's issue, the family, the mental issues, the work capacity, the capability. As long as the integrity is there, rest, everything can be managed. So unfortunately, we being manager, we talk about accountability, but we don't help them to kind of improve further or to kind of, perform further. We just speak about the issues, but not the overall framework, helping them and with compassion. I worked in health sector for a couple of years. So where I've learned on whole the compassion thing, what we used to have with, not in with the patient, with the staff who are dealing with patients. However, when you come to the industrial sector, it's other way around. But you have to make a balance. Okay, so for now, I spoke about all psychological safety. What is psychological safety? Why do we need it? And nothing new. as Magdalena said, we are not talking anything Einstein theory. We are just talking about very basic things. But these basic things, if we follow in organizations, organization will be like what? Like a good place, or you can say it's really like a paradise, which is kind of utopia. But let's move out from utopia and let's see the culture. If I speak about high performance organizational culture, again, this is not theory. We have practiced it, we have performed it, we have built it, we have developed it, we have delivered it, and we have grown it. I'm talking from organizational point of view. So the first thing is transparency. If you're not transparent, very difficult your organization will do well. Yes, sometimes, most of the times, no. And the second is common purpose. So if we have a common purpose, it means we have the same values, we share the behaviors together, and we follow it. And therefore, even personally, maybe I belong to a different ethnicity, but when I work for an X organization, my common purpose is to the success of the organization. And therefore, I'm part of the organization. If I don't believe in it, maybe I should go out, or a company should ask me to go out. Okay. I don't want to touch all. I want to just discuss one point, which is the merit. You have everything, but you don't have meritocracy. You don't have merit. Your reward system are lousy. Your reward systems are based on personal choices. Your reward system based on vasta, which is a very local word here in the Middle East. So everything is then talk, 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 talk. There is nothing authentic about it. There is nothing which you can say genuine about it, because you have seen the people, those who've been working day in, day out, and they're not being rewarded, they're not being recognized, they are not being awarded. It means what? It means nothing. It means it's all talk and it's all hush hush. Okay. And last is the celebration. So once you achieve something, you need to celebrate. Once you have something, you need to celebrate. So you actually reassure yourself. And I go back to my favorite psychologist, Skinner, who always talk about the reward and recognition, who always talk about the operant learning, which we learn through our practice, through our rewards, through our recognition. If we do that, we'll grow internally, we'll grow externally, and the whole organization. And Ms. Danica said, like the whole, not the company, but basically healthy society. So, but, and this is something many organizations, they miss out because of Iron Dome. So leaders, they don't want to say thank you openly. They say, oh, thank you in the room, but not openly. So you just kind of, say you have done a good work. You are an excellent. You look super today. So it's not harassment even, but people are very scared of saying this. Okay, let's talk about a bit of takeaways. So if we look at the whole psychological safety, and we look at the organizational culture, which is high performance, or high performing culture is one or the same thing. If you look at all these points, you have seen in terms of psychological safety, in terms of organization culture. So if you want to really grow, if you want to have a business result, if you want to improve yourself, you have to ensure you have a psychological safety framework, which could eventually take you to the business growth, because business results are as important as the existence of the organization. I take one of the quote from my professor, Peter Drucker. When we were doing our MBAs, we were kind of going through or reading Professor Drucker's books. So if you look at what Dr. Drucker has said, defined by result, not by attributes. End of the day, we leaders, we organizations, we individuals, we employees, we have to give results, results, results. However, we have to see how we produce those results. We produce with kind of with anger, with kind of compassion, with you kind of put a lot of kind of stress on yourself, or you are more someone who is pleasant to people and customers and giving results. So results are there, but it's your choice how you're going to produce those results. With this, my brief presentation is kind of, end. I'm very happy to take questions, comments, constructive criticisms. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Hasan.